Hey guys, Kev here, and I'm ready to give my final verdict on the Hinderer XM-18 3.5 inch slicer here. This was a loaner from Kyle, DTOM Knives and Gear. Shout out to Kyle. He's a really good friend. Basically, one of my best buddies in the community. And we send knives back and forth a lot. I'm sure you've heard that story from me or him before, so I don't need to, dwell on it too much. But he went ahead and sent me his Hinderer here to check out because I hadn't checked one out yet. And so far I've done an unboxing of it, and I've also done a first impressions, and I think I'm ready to kind of give my final thoughts on it and let you know if I would recommend it, especially coming from a lefty perspective, because this is a knife that is pretty well known for being very righty biased. So that's definitely something I want to get into. I am drinking LaCroix as usual. Got a key lime here. This is a good flavor. And I hope you guys are all having a fantastic day. I hope your week is going well. I just hope everybody's healthy in your families. I hope you had a wonderful holiday. I don't say it enough, but I appreciate you guys so much. And I really appreciate all the support, liking the videos, commenting, subscribing, all the good stuff you guys do. And I love getting your feedback in the comments. So it's just been really fun, and I appreciate that. So the Hinderer here, this is the XM-18 again, the 3.5 inch slicer blade here. I'm not sure if this is the skinny. I don't think so. I think this is just the slicer. I don't have the box here, so I can't double check. This is in CPM 20CV. This is made in the United States, and you have your Hinderer logo here. You can see the Hinderer logo, USA 20CV, and that is all the billboarding you're going to get on the blade, other than the tri-way pivot symbol here on the flipper tab. And then you also have Hinderer kind of etched into the titanium on this side of the lock scale. So there is a lot of jimping on this knife, and I personally like jimping when it's in the right place and it's functional to a point, especially right here on a blade. I really like having jimping there. Gives my thumb it's more of a location point for me than it is traction. So it's not really about the traction, it's about the reference. So I know where my finger is. If I'm not looking at the blade, I still know where my fingers are, and it just helps me use a knife a little better. That's a personal thing, but this knife has it everywhere. I mean, there's jimping all up here, down on the blade here. You have jimping down at the back here of the scales. You have jimping on the front of the scales here. You have jimping on the finger guard flipper tab. And then when you close it up, you have jimping on the flipper tab here. And then you have this jimping here as well. You have jimping on the lock bar. There's just jimping all over this thing. And that is not something I prefer. I like it up in this area, and that's about it. Maybe on the flipper tab, depending on the model. Because what happens is, in use case, when I'm flipping this knife, my finger already is getting stabbed by this crook here, the witch's nose I've talked about before. And then it drags across this jimping here, unless you train yourself to kind of use the tip of your finger and pull away when you're done. Then you don't hit it, and it's more comfortable. And then when you're holding it, you have all this stuff, scratching on your hands. And for me personally, I already have a good scale here. You have great ergonomics with the choil, with the finger guard, and the jimping up here. You just don't need it everywhere else. And then to top it off, when you go to close the knife, you have all this jimping here to cut you up as well. And right-handed, it's okay. It doesn't hurt too much as I close it. But again, right there, when I opened it, my finger just drug across that, and it hurts a little bit. Now, left-handed, that jimping actually comes in handy on the close because I can get a better, I can get a better feel for the lock bar to push over, so that's a good thing. But yeah, so the jimping's not my favorite. Aesthetically, we're looking at a cool drop point blade here. Again, this is the slicer blade. You have what looks to be a hollow grind, although I think it's a flat grind. It's like one of those faux hollows that's really a flat, but somebody can tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, please. And then you have this cool spine here. There's something just interesting about how it's designed, and then goes down into this flat, and then into that hollow / flat grind, whatever we're going to call it. And then out to this tip here, which is fairly robust. It's a good tip. And this is definitely a good slicer, hence the name. It works very well for slicing. It's not super thick behind the edge. It's actually fairly thin in my estimation. I don't measure that kind of stuff. I feel it when I'm cutting through paper and stuff. I can kind of feel how much resistance there is, how quickly I go through material, and that all comes from the blade geometry, the behind the edge, the actual edge itself, whether it's toothy versus, kind of clean or mirrored. But this one goes through material very well. So I definitely could see this being a good work knife. You got a nice thick stock, but not too thick, a very robust, strong knife. Your lock isn't going anywhere because you're squeezing on the frame lock when you grip the knife, so you're giving it added stability there, durability there. It's just not going anywhere, and if you go up into this choil, it's just an ergonomic dream. Even left-handed, it feels fantastic. That clip bites a little bit on me, but my finger lands in a good spot, not right on the spoon there, so it's okay. Left-handed. Right-handed, it feels even better. That clip is in my hand, but I don't really feel it on my palm. I get a really good grip like this. The jimping is a little annoying, but not too much. I could definitely see if you were doing a lot of heavy use with this, that it could start to become a problem with that jimping. In this back grip, right-handed, same thing. Clip feels great. The jimping up here is phenomenal. Left-handed back here, again, very good. So ergonomically, this knife is very good. Now, if we go into reverse grips, I've talked about this. I don't do it much, but with this knife, it just feels really good. Not sure what they call this. Is this a reverse draw cut? Or I'm not sure what it's called. Again, somebody please educate me in the comments. That is something I wanted to talk about. I've had a couple comments recently on my reviews, telling me I should do more research before I say this or say that. This is my opinion. I don't sit here and tell you these are facts. I try to give my opinion. When I do give facts or list facts and I'm not sure, I will tell you I'm not sure. Like the blade, I'm not sure if this is a hollow grind or a flat grind. So please tell me. But, it's just my opinion. If it's a knife you love and I'm saying bad things about it, I'm sorry. It's just how I personally feel and my experience has been with the knife. So I just want to kind of put that out there. I appreciate all your feedback, so please leave the comments. But I just kind of wanted to point that out. And I try to do research before I do the full review, but I don't always have time. So I'd rather get the review out there with my opinion than not do it at all. So just a little side note there. But anyway, the action on this guy is interesting. So because of this crook here, the witch's nose, you do pretty much get a really strong flip on it, because just the angle and the detent and everything, it just seems to work very well. I can fail it, but, you know, I'm basically trying to fail it. If I really, you know, pull the flipper at all, it's going to go. It's going to fly out. The close is very smooth. It's not drop shut at all, but it definitely is smooth. You can feel the smoothness of it. This one's riding on bearings. It is the tri-way system, so you can change this out to Teflon washers or to phosphor bronze washers. By the way, I think it was my first impressions. I kept saying nylon washers, and what I meant was Teflon. I don't know the difference. Again, that would be great to be educated on if somebody wants to tell me the difference between Teflon and nylon. But I kept trying to think of the word, and I couldn't. It was Teflon. So, yeah, the action's good. I think they could have made the detent a little stronger, but if they had done that, it would really tear your fingers up because of the jimping and the witch's nose here. So, I just don't think they could have done that. This one in particular has a really cool aftermarket micarta scale on it. I'm pretty sure it's from Hinderer. They make a lot of scales and parts and hardware for these knives because you can basically, you know, customize this to your heart's content, which is one of the huge selling points of Hinderer knives. So this one has a micarta scale and this, I think it's brass or copper hardware. Really cool look on here. I think Kyle did a great job putting this one together. The size of it, so a 3.5-inch blade. You know, I can get a full grip on this very comfortably, and then I have plenty of room when I choke up. So this would definitely be the size of Hinderer I would go with if I were to buy one. I would get the 3.5-inch. Although, from looking around and doing a little research on Hinderer, I think personally I would prefer the Jurassic model. That one looks just a tad bit cooler to me, and I care more about the cool factor than I do about how much better this one might be as a slicer or something. But I'm sure they're both great, you know, work knives or whatever. I'm not sure I would pick up a Hinderer anytime soon, and the reasons for that, this is a good transition here, is as a lefty, this knife just, it's not made for me. You know, it is comfortable in hand and everything, and that is why a lot of lefties still will carry a Hinderer and love Hinderer, because the ergos work either way, and you don't really have any issues with the lock bar pressure, at least not with the flipper. The thumb stud I can use easily. A trick I learned recently, shout out to Jake from Bearded Gear. I saw him on the Millie PM2 Para 3 Club the other night on live or something, and he was talking about doing the like pinch or the two finger thumb stud open. Some people do that on the Chavez knives because of the detent, and this is kind of similar. You can put your index finger here and your thumb here and use both to push it out, and you get a very strong deployment. Sorry, it's hard with the camera, you know, the angle, but you get a very strong deployment and you don't feel as much pressure on either of those fingers. When I do just the thumb, it, you know, I can feel it. It bites in a little bit, hurts a little. I cannot do the reverse flick, I do not think, left-handed. Oh, I can, but it takes a lot of pressure there because you're pushing with this middle finger. I'm pushing the stud this way, right, and up, and that's pushing against the detent. So the detent ball is getting pushed farther in, and it makes it a lot harder to push out. Yeah, it's just a little tough. And then you always have to worry about the lock bar pressure. Right-handed thumb stud is okay. It's not perfect. It's a little tough, again, because I'm pushing into that detent. And then the righty Spidey flick, I think, is probably the best option as a righty, other than the flipper. I mean, I can do it, and I'm not very good at middle finger flicking right-handed. The flipper tab right-handed is very good, and left-handed is pretty good. Other than those, ergonomic issues we've talked about with the witch's nose there. So yeah, overall, this is a fantastic work knife, great quality machining. I want to mention that I've had a Sabenza. I had a lefty Sabenza 31, the small, and I sold it because it was a little bit small and it's not very fidgety, so it just had to go. I try to carry all my knives. I don't like to have any that just sit there or safe queens, but to compare it in terms of machining, I would say that I kind of understand why they both are in that $400 to $500 range to start. The machining on these and the build quality is just fantastic. I would say that I think Chris Reeve is a slight step above this because of, because of certain machining details that they do in terms of tapering certain things. And if you want a really detailed breakdown on why Chris Reeve knives are worth the money and what the machining is that goes into them compared to other knives, please go check out Justin's channel from OCD for EDC. Again, that's OCD for the number 4 EDC. I'm sure you've seen his channel before, but he does some fantastic videos on Chris Reeve knives and why they're worth the money. And it really opened my eyes to why they cost more than your average frame lock knife. So I just wanted to mention that. But I do see why Hinderers are up in that price range as well. I do think maybe they are a little bit overpriced. I would love to see these in the $350 range. That would definitely be a better price point in my opinion, as opposed to $425. I'm sure that would make a lot of people happy too. And I have heard that their hardware and their accessories, it's as awesome as it is, they are expensive. So that's kind of your value there. This base model would be $425. With all the aftermarket stuff, I'm sure he has at least $600 into this knife at this point. So that is definitely something to consider. So, as a lefty, would I recommend this knife? No, I would not. I know there's lefties that love Hinderers, but I just can't recommend a Hinderer to a lefty. I know that I've heard Hinderer say he's thinking about doing a run of lefties. If he does that, yes, 100%, I'll buy one. But a right-handed Hinderer just, to me, is not worth $425 plus to a lefty. Especially when you think about, all the things I mentioned with deployment, ergos, and everything. The carry is, to me, the biggest kind of problem with that, because carrying this in my left pocket, you have the flipper tab and the issue where it could open up, obviously, and you have all this jimping here that your hand just jabs into. And if you carry it right-handed in your right front pocket, now you don't have the safety issue, but you have this witch's nose, the crook here, which you can slide your hand down and get beat up on this jimping, and then mostly when you pull your hand out, it kind of can get stuck. Your hand can kind of hit the witch's nose, and it can scratch you up a little bit. Now I know I'm being a little nitpicky here, but it's just something I noticed carrying this. So when I did carry it, what I did was put it in my back left pocket. That's where I normally will carry a righty knife, that an extra one if I have something else in my other pockets, or in this case it's a knife that kind of hurts to carry in a front pocket. Another example is my Chavez 229. I carry that in my back left pocket as well because it just tears you up with the jimping and the sharp corners and everything, and this is pretty much identical to that. in terms of being an issue in the front pocket. So I would not recommend it to lefties. If I was right-handed or if I was ambi and I don't mind carrying things in my right pocket or whatever, yes, I would definitely recommend this. I do think Hinderers are worth the money. Again, I'd love to see them be a little cheaper, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't spend the money. So I could definitely recommend this to a righty. I'd love to hear your thoughts, guys. Thanks for listening to me ramble on about this one. I really appreciate your support. I hope you have a great day, and I will catch you later.